Alright guys, so this is the tank that I'm going to be using for this demonstration. My personal plan is I'm going to turn this into a tank for pea puffers. I personally really like puffers. I got into it with my narrow line puffer that I currently have in a tank in my room. I super like him. I want more puffers, but I want lower maintenance ones as far as dentistry goes, because a lot of puffers have issues with their teeth continuously growing. Pea puffers kind of get around that issue because of how small they are. So I've decided pea puffers were probably a good place to, not quite start, because I started with the narrow line, but a good place to learn more about puffers as I get more and more into aquarium keeping and the fish hobby. But this is the tank that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to make heavily planted. This is the tank that 3 to 4 pea puffers are intended to live in. As you can see, it's already filled with water, the water line being about there. I already did that just because I didn't feel like that was necessary to do on camera. This is all pre-cycled water. My camera is currently sitting on top of my, on top of a 40-gallon aquarium, and it has cycled water in it. It's been running for a year, 2 years. I don't necessarily remember when I set it up, but even that had pre-cycled water when I started that up. So took some water from there, put it in here. This has already been cycled. Add a little bit more water. Currently nothing's in here, and I just have the filter running to get rid of any floating particles that are in there, because this tank was being used for something else. That's why there is, I'm not sure if you can see it from that angle, but there is little bits of sand along the bottom. That shouldn't really pose an issue. I am going to be covering it all with this black sand. I don't know how well you can see that. Actually, if I flip it over, you can see it a lot better. I am going to be filling that with black sand, and so that should be covering all that stuff, and the tank's not going to move, so it's not like you can really see underneath it. Along with various other plants and stuff that are sitting in the Petco bag that might just be out of it. I'm not fully sure, but I do believe they are. Alright, so I know I'm already kind of starting off slightly different from how a lot of people in the aquarium hobby like to start up tanks. They like to put rocks and sand in first so that they can get kind of a good foundation, and you won't really have many rock slides, if any. But for me, I kind of just wanted to fill it with the water so I didn't have to do that later. Plus, if you kind of just pour the sand not onto the water, but kind of underneath the water level, I don't really have as many particles at the top anyway, and it works for me. Do it how you please. Most people like to put the rocks first. I won't really be having any large rocks, so I don't really fear rock slides. The largest rocks that I have are these, and these are solely for decorational purposes. That I'm going to kind of make a shore. It's coming up as it goes back towards me, and then a couple rocks along my log and a couple other plants that I have in there. So I don't really fear rock slides as far as this tank goes. Other tanks, yes, I have put the rocks in first before the sand. In my not quite a coral reef, but in my tank with corals and live rock, I did put the rocks in first because I don't want them sliding and killing a fish. In here, there isn't that threat. So in this way, it kind of just works for me. That first step for me being putting in the water. Alright, so again, the black sand that I have, although it's kind of heavy and unwieldy, if you can get where you're pouring it underneath that water level, which I'm not doing, if you can get that under the water level, you'll have less particles floating at the top to begin with. At least from my experience, it kind of does make it harder to pour. But I did already put the water in. Would have been more convenient without it, but I did it. I thought it would have been easier that way, but it also is like, I didn't really think, and I kind of already put the water in. So, yeah. Particles at the top. We'll wait for a lot of the sand to settle before we put anything living in anyway, so it doesn't really matter in the beginning. I'm just going to keep trying to justify it. Just a heads up. I'm just going to keep trying to justify it. I made a stupid choice, and instead of admitting that I was wrong, I'm going to keep trying to justify it. And I think so far, I am making a damn good effort on that. But now with the sand in there, really, like I said, I kind of want to shore over to this side. So I am going to move my feeder up a little bit. Right up there. Kind of putting that under the filter for the time being, just so I kind of have everything. I'll move it once I end up putting more things in, but I kind of just wanted them both there for the time being. And then as far as the filter goes, oh no, please. Just trying to shorten that. Okay. Please don't suck sand right now. I don't want to kill a filter like that before I even had a tank, so before I even set up the tank. Alright. So it is kind of harder to see just because it is not super well lit, and it's black sand, so it's quite dark, but it is kind of making a slope up and towards the back. There's a much higher level in the back right to you, I guess. Either way. And it's also important, so when I had that water level down there, when I filled with sand, you can now see the water level is significantly higher. If I didn't do that, could have ran into overflowing. Again, you can get around that issue by just putting in the water after the sand or after all the other decorations, and to prevent the sand from rising to the top, you pour the water on top of decorations or rocks or logs, like etc. But with how I did it, it worked about the best that it could. Again, I'm just gonna keep justifying that I put in the water first because I didn't think about it. I tend to have bad memory, and I'm not the best at planning things. I plan things, but once I actually get to the actions, I don't have a step-by-step. I just kind of do it. But either way, there's that. There's the sand. There will be little bits at the top that is floating. Either that will be picked up by the filter, or the water splashing from the filter will agitate that sand and it will sink back down. The second thing I kind of want to do now is introduce my stones. Although I kind of wanted to do this after my log, just because I kind of wanted to make these stones an accent to the log. I don't want them to be their own decoration. They're to help with the aesthetic of that log. But I want to wait a little bit more time for this water to lighten up again, because it has a lot of black sand particles in it, so it is appearing darker currently. But anyway, I will find a place that I kind of like for these stones, and place them accordingly. Kind of thinking a ring, which this is going to be worked on, and as I progress through the video, I will probably change my mind and move the stones, just because, you know, I have multiple things to put together, and so I may think that, oh, this item, this, you know what would look better with this item? Putting this over here to complement this. So doing such, I'll probably end up moving things. But as of right now, I'm thinking kind of ring with the stones around the top. Just kind of a quarter of a circle. And then the last two will kind of just be over in this corner. I don't know. I may end up getting more rocks. I may end up ditching a few of these. It really just depends once I get those other things in there. It really just depends. I don't have any dead set plans now. I'm not following a tutorial. I'm doing this for the first time myself. But I have done research on kind of how other people do it, just to kind of see the process they take. And I've already messed that up, so we're on our own now. Are you following the tutorial, or are you just watching for entertainment, or are you watching because I shared you the video and I was like, hey, watch this because I want views? I probably won't do that because I typically don't share my own videos unless one of my friends asks me how to do something, and then I have that in the video. Whole channel that I don't use anymore. Same name. Whatever. Besides the point. All of this, it'll be workshopped, it'll be changed. I can guarantee, nearly guarantee, how it looks right now, I am not going to leave those stones where they are. I am pretty sure that that log is going to interrupt a lot of those stones, but I want the particles to settle before I end up doing that. Alright, so the next thing I really want to do is put the plants and the other decorations inside. So typically you don't want to pour the water that comes with fish bags and that kind of stuff into the aquarium, because it can introduce diseases that were at the fish store and for some fish are undetectable. But this is just plants. There shouldn't be any disease because there wasn't really any fish living with them. So I feel like this water is safe for pouring. I'm still going to avoid doing it. But it's not the end of the world if it happens. It's not the end of the world if it happens normally, but if you're a little bit more relaxed about it. So the first thing I really want to put in is this log, and it just has a plant growing in it. And just really all it is. I think it's a nice decoration piece. It's already been water soaked, or water logged, so it's going to sink. It won't have floating issues. Some logs or driftwood, if you get them, you may have to waterlog them so that they don't float to the top, or pin them. And just putting it in, finding a good place. Put it in.
Alright guys, so I sped the video up a little bit, just because really all I'm doing is deciding how I want to put this tank together, and of course this is up to your own personal opinion. If you don't like how I did it, then make your tank completely different from mine. Just put the tank together, decide you don't like it that way, and then put it together again, pull it apart, put it back together. It is a lot easier if you do this without the water and you dry scape it first. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I put the water in there without thinking. But either way, I spilled the water all over my floor like a couple more times because I wanted something to clean. I didn't want to just be done. Either way, right now I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put some of my plants. Where do I want to put the log? Where do I want to put like my little tree? Decided I'm gonna put, I don't remember exactly what these plants are called, but I decided I'm gonna put them towards the back right, and I wanted to kind of get a couple more and put them along that back, hopefully to kind of hide that heater, hide the filter, at least the inlet for the filter, since the filter itself will be peeking over the top. Still yet to do that while I'm editing, but I do plan to do that before I put fish in there, since that will make it easier. But anyway, I put them all in that corner. It's a lot easier if you kind of just move the decorations away. As you can see in my video, like I said, I don't plan these things, so I keep moving the log back, and then every time I go back in there to put more plants, I need to move the log again, and immediately once I'm done, I move the log. See, I just keep doing it. But anyway, put all those plants up at the top right corner. I kind of wanted them a bit thick. I did end up pulling them away because I wanted them to be planted a little better, a little bit thicker. They were kind of a little bit too far away for my liking. And of course, this again, all up to your interpretation. You buy them in bundles typically, and if you even want to put it into the sand or soil or whatever you're using for your fish tank, if you want to put them in as the bundle, then that's perfectly fine. I don't think there's any issue with the plants doing that, considering they sit in pet stores or wherever you may get them for months like that. So anyway, I decided to pull them apart. I wanted them to be planted a little bit thicker. However you guys want to put your tank together, do that. Don't necessarily, if you want to, you can follow this whole video step by step, make it exactly like my tank, same color sand, same color rocks, same plants and everything. But again, it's all up to whatever you want. If you like it one way more than another, then make the video, or not make the video, make your tank like that. Just do whatever you guys like, of course. Make it however you want. Maybe only use one type of plant throughout the entire tank. Maybe use more than I'm using. Use multiple different colored rocks. Use multiple different colors of sand. I would still stick to like a more natural or monotone kind of color, or mono color scheme. I don't really know what I'm saying. Whatever. But I'd still stick to like one color of sand. I personally don't really like multiple colors of sand or gravel, but it's up to you. Again, just do whatever you guys like. Do whatever you think will make your tank look the best. As you can see by this point, I'm really just looking, taking a step back, looking at my whole tank, seeing what I like, seeing what I think would look better in certain spots. And hindsight's always 20/20. There's always things you can improve later on down the road. As long as you don't really have livestock in there, I mean, you're free to just continue to keep moving things around. Even when you get fish, depending on your fish, you may be willing to stick your hand in there and continue to move things around. Hindsight's always 20/20. Personally, I think that log, it would have looked a lot better if I would have flipped it the other way. Just because of where it's cut, it's kind of more towards the front. If I wanted it to look a little bit more natural, I could have had that plant towards the front, that's sitting on that log and, pointed towards the front. I think personally that would look better. I think I may end up moving it to be that way before I end up putting the fish I plan to put in there. But it's really up to you. Just build what you think looks nice while you're there. Take a step back, look at what you don't like, and go back in and improve what you don't like. All I'd suggest is those final touches like the rocks and the log, do those last. Again, I didn't really plan to do that, so. And then here's just a little extra footage. I put a couple fish in there just to kind of keep that nitrogen cycle going, and they breathe, they produce CO2, the plant takes that in, takes away that carbon molecule, converts it back to oxygen. So I have two black velvet mollies. Personally, mollies are my favorite kind of fish. I just think they're really interesting fish. They're live bearers. But I have them in there just for the time until I end up putting my official stuff in there. And then once that's done, these guys will be moved back to their old tank. So anyway, I'll let you guys just look at the tank. Personally, I like it. I think there's a couple things I can improve, but it's really up to you guys. When you're making this tank, do what you like. Obviously don't do what you don't want to do. Get the plants you want. Just probably plan that a little bit better than I did. Plan the plants before you end up setting up the tank. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching, and peace out.